Welcome in, folks. This is Babbaginator. We are in the long dark. It is day 41. We only have 9 days left. And it's daytime, so I guess we can leave. I think we had been hoping to find... Did we already go upstairs? Let's double check. Yeah, already up here. Okay. So the big question is there a bear? Can we get a bear?
I can barely walk with this much.
Hmm.
Can you move trees? Because I'm gonna eat a tree.
Hmm. No luck with the bear. All right.
I can't feel my feet.
Got wolves out here. Points. More points.
Ooh, cold.
Oh, there's 3 of them here. Yeah. Yeah, waited too long.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
So I think we got 2 now. We just have 1 more to go.
Oh, I'm starving. I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
Okay. Time to head back. Or head over to Thompson. So it's been kind of a quiet day. I'm busy working on some documentation projects for work, and then actually I had to spend the morning finishing up. I had to submit a new bio for the opera that I've been working on because they're doing a publishing something this year. It's celebrating like all these different pieces and operas that have been produced by our producer. And so they asked, well, they recorded one of the arias from the opera, and then they wanted the bios from my composer and I. And apparently they'd forgotten to ask for my bio until like right at the last minute. And so they like let me know, I think on Saturday. So I spent some time trying to come up with a 250 word version of my bio that would be suitable for, you know, this particular appearance. Because it's a little bit different. It's not like me as a poet necessarily, or as faculty, or as applying for a job, or even publishing like in a literary journal. This is a longer bio, and I think is an opportunity to be a little bit more like narrative, like to tell a little bit of a story about how you got where you got. So yeah, I read a bunch of other people's bios and then try to figure out how I wanted to represent things. Then I agonized over it. And then finally this morning, I gave myself the deadline of 9 a.m. to finish working on it, and did that. Then, like I said, documentation the rest of the day, and then I went.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Very exciting laundry, and then went and picked up my new sports coat and pants for my job interview this coming Friday.
Oh,
I think we can start a fire in here, right? No, this is the one you can't. Okay. Oh, the free animal crackers. Oh. So I realized something. Good to see you, Roller. I realized something about my going for this job interview in Toronto at the end of the week. And I realized because of the time difference, 8:30 in Toronto is really 5:30 in the morning out here. So I am going to have to get to bed early, so I feel like I have enough rest. Otherwise I'll be dead tired when I do the interview. Hey, Tarmuse. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. Shout out Tarmuse.
Most of the time, this time is like decide. I'm just gonna. Whoa!
I probably shouldn't be streaming tonight. I have a job interview on Friday.
That was tense.
Out in Toronto. It's like a second round interview.
Holy heckin' moly!
This particular position. But I'm supposed to prepare a presentation for that, and I've been making notes, but I just really couldn't get my head into the game in terms of working on the actual presentation tonight. So here we are. Wow, 20 stream streak. So yeah, I am flying out on Thursday, so there'll be no stream. Well, usually I'm not on Thursday. There's no stream Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is up in the air. It depends how tired I am when I get back in. And what time I get back in.
Oh, I've never been so hungry in my life.
Yeah. Oh, there's another wolf over here. Hey, buddy.
Too cold to think.
Ah, that was terrible. I shouldn't have taken that shot. My mouse was kind of sluggish there. I'll blame the mouse. It's really me. I was a little sluggish. I actually need to make more torches, so we're going to slip in here.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Are you also in Toronto, Tomruse? Is that tour for Toronto? Very cool. Yeah, we'll see. This is sort of basically the finalist round, and hopefully things go well. I'm trying to cook something. What can we cook? You know, we're out of. Yeah, it's final round. I don't know how many candidates they're bringing in. I'm guessing maybe 3 to 5. I don't know. I think usually it's like 3 or 4. Sometimes they'll go all the way up to 6, but usually it's the top 3 that make it to the campus visit. I have no idea who's up, who else is going for this position, and
Barely walk with this much gear.
not 100% certain how flexible they will be for start time. I need a little bit of flexibility. I need to be able to get from where I am in Vancouver to Toronto, driving across country, which means I have to make allowances for weather, and I have to make allowances for, like, basically downsizing. Like, I have to basically get rid of anything that I can't fit in my car. So my roommate, thankfully, is happy to take a lot of the furniture, but some other stuff I'll still have to figure out how to get rid of. So I figure the earliest I could get out there would be end of January and start, beginning of February. And that's ambitious. That's if weather is perfect the whole way through. And there's no car issues. So yeah, I think you mentioned about breaking your wrist recently.
Use this.
Ooh, we have our second pair of combat pants. Something's looking up. Yeah. Yeah, while I have a temporary place to stay when I get there, I have an aunt in Starville who will let me crash on the couch for a few weeks if I need to. I would rather be settled in sooner as opposed to later. And most likely I'll have to move out there and then dump everything into a storage unit and then go back. Well, and then find a place and then move out of the storage unit all in the first month.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay, where are we at with our wolves? I think we should be at 24 wolves killed. Let's see here. We added 3 more wolves. 15. That should put us at 258. We're over 250. But yeah, this is a pretty crappy showing. Definitely not my best attempt at this. So. But it's the closest to being done, so. So there's a part of me that would be very, very excited to get the position. There's a part of me that if they say no, I'm actually okay with that, because then I will just move back to Saskatchewan initially and then have a little bit more time to plan out a move to Toronto. And hopefully not have to do it in the middle of winter. But so I mean, in a way, there's no wrong way that this plays out. If I get the job, it's great. I'll have the income and experience, and I'll be able to move forward professionally. If I don't get it, it gives me more logistical, like more time to take care of the logistics of a move to Toronto, which my mother still wants to do, and I don't want her to go on her own, so I will go with her. Yeah, so it is kind of win-win. But I prefer to move out there with a job in hand, right? It just feels like you hit the ground running as opposed to like having to figure out how to make ends meet. Do we need this on? Okay, someone reminded me that we can do this. Then we don't have to tear everything down.
This'll come in handy.
Another festive sweater.
Anything right about now.
I think the thing I'm encouraged by is I always feel like I'm such an oddball when I go in for these interviews that, or when I apply for things, I generally don't expect to get a call. Because I think people look at my application and just think like, what in the world do we do with someone like this? It's like, he's going to be bored, or he's going to leave us, or he can't possibly be interested in this role. Or his skills seem all over the place. Why would we hire him?
Come on, little fire.
But all libraries are a safe place for weirdos, so. We do have a potato. Potato. Oh, we already have cabin fever risk? Wow. We got pancakes again. Now we're officially out of flour.
I can barely walk with this much gear.
Still early. Can we fix? So yeah, I fly out Thursday, and I think I get in at about 8:30 something at night. And then I will probably grab something to eat after I check in, or grab something to eat before I check in, and then sleep immediately because of the time difference, because it will feel super early when I wake up. Yeah. When I wake up, it will have to be on the campus by 8:30, really means I have to be on the campus by 8 o'clock. Probably want to walk around a little bit, check it out. I have to figure out. We've been packing and prepping, trying to figure out what I want to take with me. Oh, we could go to the cave. Really should do some repairs on that. Yeah, those of you who are lurking and new, this is our challenge. We're doing the tournament, the TLF, or the FTS, the Furry Then Silence tournament. So we are almost done with this one. And this is a little bit about me. I think I should still be able to finish this by the end of December. I mean, this run, I will streaming tonight. This will probably take me to maybe day 44, 45. And then we probably have 1 or 2 streams left after that. If I am finished prepping my presentation tomorrow night, then I will stream. If not, I'll be working on my presentation. If I'm done by Wednesday, then I'll stream. But then obviously Thursday, Friday, I'll not be available. Double check something here. Let's see. I get back. Yeah, I get back late. Too late to stream on Saturday. I'll be back at 11:30 p.m. By the time I get home, it's going to be after midnight. Yeah. So no stream on Saturday. So pretty much you might get a stream tomorrow. You might get one on Wednesday, depending on how far I've gotten in my preparation. Otherwise, it's tonight. And then next week, you'll get me for the first half of the week. And then I am leaving on the 17th. Flying home, and then maybe you catch me on the 18th and 19th. We'll see. Lots of stuff up in the air, yeah. Yeah, there's enough light that in theory we can start doing repairs. EG, no, not tonight. I've killed 3 wolves. That's all I killed so far. No cougar. We have not done the cougar.
And this pack is getting kind of heavy.
Yeah, this is definitely, EG, this is definitely going to be a really disappointing tournament entry. It's the bare minimum. Have I taken 50 shots? I think I have taken 50 shots. Bow shots taken 62, so we're met the minimum requirement of taking 50 shots.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Has anyone else watched the Goes Wrong show? It's a British show about a performance company, a theater company that every episode puts on a new play, and the play goes disastrously wrong. And it is some of the best writing and physical comedy that I've seen ever. It's just hilarious. Yeah, let's see. I'll post you a link here. Okay, here we go. That's the playlist for all the episodes. Anyways, it's hilarious. British show. Sometimes they have American accents, which are horrible and also funny. And there's like some recurring, ongoing like character development because the different actors in the theater company also have kind of recurring problems. You get to know their personalities pretty well. So. The actors are playing characters who are playing characters. Yeah. I don't see the bear. I don't see the wolves.
I could eat anything.
Any sign of a bear? Nope. I thought I saw a wolf. Nope, just got a carcass. So yeah, we're probably 2 streams away from finishing this up. Okay, we can warm up here. We can fight our cabin fever. Hey, welcome in, lurkers. It seems like we picked up a few more people.
It's so cold. I just want to lay down for a bit.
Are we suddenly cold again? Yep, fire's gone out. Let's drop some tea and see if we can warm ourselves up. Whoa, another raid. Welcome in, Flightless Rain. Those of you just joining us, I'm Babbaginator. I'm a TLD streamer.
If you know, you know.
Also a writer.
Oh my god, what the heck?
And most recently, I just finished up a library science degree, so I now have a master's in library and information science to add to my other degrees, which are too many because apparently I can't make up my mind. So you bork, yeah. So thanks for the follow, Effie Blackheart. Welcome in, Akalia. Unless it's aluminum. No, I don't know what that is. It's overeducated, underpaid is basically what you get. Yeah. And then we are currently doing the tournament, where it's basically we've got 50 days to do a lot of hunting, and we start from scratch in Interloper. And we are nearing the end of that, but this has been honestly like a really terrible, in terms of the hunting, it's been a really terrible run. We had a really late start in hunting due to like not finding saplings when we needed to find the saplings. So it took them forever to get cured. Yep, lost her. Yeah, and then we had another one that was actually pretty good, and then we blew it. Because we decided on day 45 to go for a cougar hunt, and the cougar hunt ended really badly, and I bled out in the middle of the night on day 46 and died. So that was not a happy thing. It was such a dumb way to die. I mean, it's TLD is full of dumb ways to die. Yeah. Oh, Flightless, what'd you get to? What's your new record? No sign of wolves. 61. Yeah, once you break 50, if you can break 50, then you've figured out the secret. And then getting from 50 to 100 is just more practice. But do you have the basics down? Oh, who's going to get the kills, though? I think it's the Timby's going to get the kills. They kill me. Look at how poorly I maintain my health. I mean, yeah.
freezing.
Does a cougar affliction still potentially cause you to develop sweat? Yes, Tormuse, that's what killed me. I slept for 3 hours, was fine. I decided to try to sleep for 4 hours. I bled out. And I didn't have enough, I had no birch bark tea left, and I had no, it was just, I was not equipped to do the cougar hunt. I just didn't realize how much I needed to make it work. Where did we come through on this one? Became Mystery Lake to Ravine. No, Mystery Lake. Yeah. Poor Astrid is getting all beat up again. We are definitely choosing the wrong direction to make this. Walking right into the wind when we're already taking damage. I think what we should do is just find a spot. The wind is really bad. Yeah, it's minus 29. So we're just getting beaten up here. Why are we so heavy? It's all this food we haven't cooked. Yeah, I think that's next. Let's do a new roll with it. I think the public wants it. I think I've also had enough of a break from it that I'd be willing to do it again. That's a high stress challenge. If you're not familiar, chat, if you're new and you're not familiar with this particular challenge, this is the roll with it challenge. So it's something I created to keep myself entertained when trying to do longer interloper runs. And so there is a certain randomness to the progression. You have to keep rolling to determine how many days you spend in each region. There is a separate luck of the draw challenge, where instead of rolling dice, I'm pulling cards, and the cards tell me like the nature of my exit condition, what I have to accomplish before I can leave the region. But I don't think it was as entertaining as roll with it. just getting locked into a region is really, really interesting mechanics wise, because you have to, and sort of strategy wise, because you can't just simply say, I don't like this region, I'm going to avoid it, or I don't like this region and I'm not going to stay any time there. I think we're going to have to use a stim to get proper rest. But I still think we are risking, yeah. Hold on a second, Astrid. Just let us get to. Cold is just cold. Man, this is just so... Not dead yet.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Yep, not dead yet. Oh, I know what we can do. Time to sharpen our axe. Crows before wolves. Yay, we haven't done that in a while. Good call, EG. Thinking about what to read. You have a preference, EG? What do you want? Thanks for the hydrate. Okay, I'm slouching. And my chair is slouching too. There we go. Oh, and Baba bark, bark, bark. There you go. Now my roommate's wondering, what in the world is going on? Why is my roommate making weird chicken noises? It's like that's what my public wants. Chicken noises. Okay, let's think about what we're going to read here. Pros before wolves. Now we have to go digging through the archives to see what we got available. Creative nonfiction. Okay, let's see. We have a few different options. I could read a very silly and entertaining short essay about Canada. It's like really not that long. Yeah, maybe we'll do this. Okay. Canada, a brief dissertation. This was written for a friend of mine, Rick Lupert, who is a poet in Los Angeles who every time he and his wife go on a vacation, he writes poetry about the location and then turns it into a chapbook, a short poetry book, which he then releases. And so one year he decided to go to Canada, and then he wrote about it, and he said, I want to have some Canadians I know be like the opening readers for this event. So he asked me to prepare a short dissertation on Canada. And so this is pretty, I don't know, it should go by pretty quickly. Canada, a brief dissertation. Abstract. In abstract, Canada is something like America's hat. Not quite a Stetson, but perhaps more like a woolly cap with nice fluffy ear flaps that have been partially turned up, tastefully of course. It sits there on top of the United States, keeping the cold out, quietly entertaining weird ideas about civility, and in general, not moving around that much. Main body. Canada, spelt Canada, is a North American country consisting of 10 provinces: British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island, as well as 3 territories: the Yukon, Northwest Territory, and Nunavut, which are also frequently referred to as cold, bitter cold, and have you seen my toes? I think they fell off somewhere back there by the walrus carcass I slept in last night. According to the esteemed pop culture critical and musical ensemble Arrogant Worms, Canada is really big. And it is indeed very big. At 9,984,670 square kilometers, that's 3,854,085 square miles for you Yanks, Canada is the second largest country in the world after Russia, and shares an almost equivalent number of Ukrainian expatriates. Were Canada a part of the US, it would rank as the second most populous state, boasting a population of roughly 34,338,000 people, give or take a few American tourists lost in our national parks, slightly smaller than California's 37,253,956. If the Canadian population were evenly distributed across the country, there would be 8.3 people per square mile, compared to the United States' 87.4 people per square mile. In reality, though, 3/4 of the Canadian population lives less than 100 miles from the U.S. border. The country is full of beautifully stunning terrain and land features, the awe-inspiring peaks of the Rocky Mountains, the real ones, not the American-made facsimiles, the lush western forests of towering pine, the pristine glacier lakes, and the high mountain passes of Banff National Park, the terrifyingly flat prairies where deer and antelope still play, and farm vehicles pull over to the side of the road to let you pass, then wave nicely, and the chilly Great Lakes which we share with our southern gun-toting neighbors in Michigan, the barrel ride-inducing Niagara Falls, and the maritime provinces where folks are folks, still fishing, dancing, and occupying a strange half-time zone in Newfoundland. The smallest province, Prince Edward Island, is rumored to be partially owned by the Japanese, who acquired it after their entire nation fell in love with the television version of Anne of Green Gables. Quebec, with its vast deposits of natural asbestos, on the other hand, despite its best efforts, has not actually been disowned and remains an important part of Canada, primarily by helping the rest of the country feel better about itself. It is also worth noting that Canada, contrary to popular belief, was not built by beavers. It is true that the land inspires strange naming conventions. It is possible to find yourself in Love, a small town in northern Saskatchewan, which is also home to Elbow, Eyebrow, Moose Jaw, Uranium City, and Rabbit Lake, which has neither rabbits nor a lake. It is also said that Canada's newest territory earned its name when the federal government asked the native population, the Indigenous peoples in the Northern Territory, how much of this barren, bitterly cold wasteland do you actually want? To which they said, none of it. The climate of Canada varies considerably, the coastal regions being the most temperate. Much of Canada is cold for half to three-quarters of the year, which results in an average daily temperature of 5 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 15 degrees Celsius. Temperatures in Canada can drop as low as minus 58 degrees without wind chill factor in the winter and as high as 113 in the summer. As for trade, chief exports include wheat, canola, zinc, uranium, gold, aluminum, lead, talk show hosts, weather forecasters, comedians, entertainers, hockey players, musical artists, computer programmers, and the occasional poet who isn't named Leonard Cohen. For the most part, the Canadian people are peaceful people, channeling the bulk of their aggressions into energetic games of hockey and curling, and spending their long winters in vigorous debates about what's wrong south of the border, where can you get a good toque, and what's up with Quebec. Again, please. Excellent healthcare, low crime, cold weather, and a 99% literacy rate, along with the invention of poutine and lots of open space, have all contributed in some way to keeping the Canadian public a generally peace-loving people. Domestically, Canadians are protected by both the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Moose Patrol, which employs giant, human-manned moose robots to fight crime, and CSIS, which you've never heard of because, unlike the CIA and the FBI, it is actually a secret service that stays secret. This peaceful atmosphere has not always been the case. Canadians have been to war a number of times and fought very valiantly, but never, perhaps, as heroically as the War of 1812 when they invaded the United States in response to President Madison's failed attempt to invade Canada and burned down the White House. Despite past war crimes, many Canadians today continue to study, work, and live in the United States. Even now, lurking among you, there may be Canadians. Some sport easily identifiable mullets, some wear excessive flannel, and still others may look just like you, having shed their winter coats, trimmed their hair, and concealed their accents to sound all but American. You can spot Canadians, though, if you're properly informed. They tend to apologize more frequently, usually remember to let you pass on the freeway, and keep their AC going at Arctic temperatures all year round. If you do encounter a Canadian, do not be alarmed. They can be placated with offers of Tim Horton donuts, Wayne Gretzky memorabilia, the patron saint of Canadian hockey, and a warm cup of cocoa or coffee. Canada is, all in all, a delightful place, rich in cultural heritage, natural beauty, great music like the Northern Pikes, the Bare Naked Ladies, Rush, the Tea Party, and the Tragically Hip, vibrant urban centers, and scenic rural settings. Yes, it's cold, very, very cold, and it's really, really big. But the people are warm and very nice most of the time, unless your name is Madison and you're thinking of invading Canada. Then we'll burn the White House down again, but we'll give you maple cookies afterwards. So that's still okay. Sorry, I'm done. There we go. So that bit of silliness was Canada, a dissertation. Term use, am I generally in the right ballpark? Now, some of that's pretty dated since it was written before I left LA, so that would put it at probably 2012, maybe? 2012, 2013 maybe. So, no errors? Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. I think there are fewer Canadians in the US right now. I would say that's probably the one thing that's changed. We all kind of came back to Canada. Okay, this is going to sound weird, but I'm actually looking forward to being done with work in January. Because right now I feel like a lot of work, all I'm working on really is just documentation stuff, and it's the most boring thing ever. Yet, it's something to work on. It's better than not having anything to work on. But come January, when my job is done, then I have more time in my schedule, most of which will be spent, getting ready for this big move. But it will also mean that I can devote a little bit more time to some other projects and hopefully more writing. Lately, I've been starting to feel like I want to do more writing or send more things out, so it's good. Okay, take care of Tourney. You've been MIA as well? Yeah, I was going to say, this week is going to be... I'll be on tonight, obviously, and maybe either Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't know which one. But I do have to finish prepping for my interview on Friday, so there's a presentation I have to put together, and I've been doing the research, but I haven't really been putting together the actual slides for the slideshow. So I need to design that and get it together, because I have to turn it in early so that they have it available. I also need to figure out where my USB flash drive is. Oh, there it is. Nope, that's not it. Somewhere I have on my desk, which is a little bit of a mess. I probably should clean it tomorrow. Need to back up my presentation onto a flash drive and just have multiple redundancies, like have it available on the cloud, have it available on the flash drive, have it available on my own laptop, having already sent them a copy. So I'll have 5 levels of redundancy. Okay, let's figure out what we can repair. Okay, let's figure out how we are on the verge of full-blown. Okay, let's do this. Let's grab some coal, then we'll come out here, build a fire. Or did we leave any coal out here? I think we left a pack of coal out here. We must have, because we came into this region from this path.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
No, we didn't leave any coal behind. Weird. Okay, now we have to go find coal. Hopefully there's some coal back here. Oh, there's at least one piece. Yeah, so January, depending on how much progress I make in getting things ready for the move, I might pick up a few more, might stream in the daytime too, or I might just work on other stuff. Oh, we used a stim and we found a stim.
I'll take it.
What good's our current one? Our good's 84. We're good. Okay. Yeah, let's just take this coal and go with this, and then
Barely walk.
gotta avoid getting the cabin fever.
Come on, little fire. Come on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Okay.
And this pack is getting kind of heavy. Come on, little fire.
Where are we at for days? 43. We only have 7 days left. That's not great. Twenty-six. Okay. Yep, some of these are terrible. Okay, let's use these. Okay. Okay, let's drop our T's.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay, let's head out. I don't think we've had any changes. No, we didn't kill anything else, so. Nothing's warm anymore.
Jesus, this is cold. Come on, little fire. Come on. It's goddamn freezing. Perfect.
Whoop. When we leave our fry pan, we left our fry pan. No, we have our fry pan. I won't let it. There it is. Weird. Great. That's terrible.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
I think we have to go back to town. Man, this tournament run's ending with a whimper. It's so sad. I'd like to at least get to Timberwolf Mountain. Despite not getting as much hunting in as I wanted, we did get a number of really good shots. You know, we took down bears. We one-shotted a few bears. It was good. But
I need to find some place to escape this cold.
still 84. Wow.
Barely walk with this much gear.
Yeah, this is Pleasant Valley being really, really not pleasant. Ooh.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay. Just making tea.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
Mm-hmm. It's getting there, yeah, about another 5 minutes or so. We did start a little bit early, but I think I really need to go to bed early tonight. I stayed up late for a couple nights working on different things, and I feel like I'm overdue to get an early night, whether or not it actually works. But sometimes I go to bed early and then I stay up reading, and then I was like, well, I really didn't help myself.
Barely walk with this much gear.
Hey, Laszlo. Well, good to see you again. Yeah, I mean, everyone's schedule has been kind of crazy lately, so not surprised. 278. Maybe I'll give you a shout out too. Very clever, Laszlo. Very clever. So, yeah, Laszlo, it's been a while. So, the main updates for me are I'm going to be moving at the end of January. And it will either be to Saskatchewan or it will be to Ontario. I am going to Toronto this Friday for, well, I'll be there on Thursday night, but the interview is Friday. I have an all-day second round interview with the University of Toronto for a position. And so if I get it, then they'll probably want me to be there in February. If I don't get it, I'm moving back to Saskatchewan since I'm done with my master's in library and information studies, and there's really no point for me to stay since my job just finishes up this month and I don't have anything else locally. So, I mean, I have lots of friends and I really like the city, and I have some good colleagues and connections within the university. I just don't have a job offer to stay. So expect a somewhat tumultuous stream schedule for the next few weeks. Definitely for this week. I think this is tonight I'll stream, and maybe if I'm lucky by Wednesday I'll be ready to stream again. But I think tomorrow I have to dedicate to putting together my presentation. So, gotta wow them. Yeah, I've been very fortunate to stay in good health. I know that doesn't always happen, and I definitely have had periods when I was not healthy. But so far so good, knock on wood. Ooh.
God, I did anything right.
Went to a holiday party on Saturday. Actually, I went to 2 holiday parties on Saturday. But the second one I went to in the evening was mostly writers from the community, some of whom I hadn't seen in almost 20 years. And it was really interesting to chat with people and realize people still have a hard time figuring out how old I am. So like, I'll take that. I'll take that. Then there was another writer there, and I didn't realize he was actually 65. I was like, he looks like he's still in his 40s. But people look at me and they think I'm still in my 30s. So we gotta take care of ourselves. Okay. Okay, we're gonna pop out here.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Okay, well, we're gonna get ready soon to have our. We're gonna have a little wolf encounter over here. Come on, Wolfie. Need to add points. Ah, I just jerked the shot. Why was I doing that? I just like, swung it up. I'm like, why are you swinging it up? Come on, Wolf. What I really need to do is I need to have some guts or something. Something to draw them in. Try this again.
I can't feel my hands.
Okay. Get into position. There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
so cold.
What do I want to do? I think we're going to go to the cave. So yeah, got that one. Now we just need to... That adds another 5 to ours. So I think we'll finally break 250, right? No, we're already over 250. We're now break 260. 44. Okay, 44. 63, 25. It's a deer if we want a deer. Okay. Starting to go down. Do we have another wolf up here? Okay, we're just gonna focus on what we need to do. Bad cholesterol down. Wow, that's really good. You ordered pizza. I did get some pizza earlier today. I have been taking advantage of, there's a app, which I think is in some other cities in addition to our city, called Too Good To Go, which basically restaurants can post their things that they didn't sell at the end of the day for pickup the next day at like a significant discount, usually 50 to 75% off. And so, you know, there's a local pizza chain that has a few locations that are pretty close to me, and so sometimes I'll get myself one of their food packs, which is basically, it's kind of like leftover slices of pizza, so they have like enough slices to make up one pizza, but the pizzas are all different. How many raids are we going to have tonight? Hey, welcome in, That Fat Tom. What were you up to? Let's see. Also playing Long Dark. Welcome in, folks. So yeah.
I'm going to leave a couple of these sitting here just to see if they can forever stay warm but never burn.
TLD
I want to test this.
Writer, author of
We're definitely doing that.
Also a former computer games programmer,
Science
player and DM. And most recently, I have completed a master's in library and information studies. So I've trained to become an academic librarian, or a data librarian, as the case may be. Yeah, so that's kind of me in a nutshell. And we're currently doing the tournament, the Furry Then Silence tournament, which has nothing to do with furries. It has everything to do with hunting as many creatures as you can within the first 50 days. An interloper, you have to get all the materials together and get to a forge and forge your arrowheads and craft your arrows and bow. So any sort of hiccup along that, like if you end up with no hammer for a while or no saplings, then you get a really delayed start. I don't think we got our bow until day 15, which is a pretty late start, so our score is pretty low. What poet should everyone read? You know, that's actually a really good question, and it's going to be biased by whatever I think is really good poetry, right? So, like, So the question is there a poet that I really love that I think everyone should read, or is there a poet that I think I could recommend to everyone and most people would enjoy? Okay. So I have like a handful of really favorite writers, but I think okay, it really depends what you want. Like if you want love poetry, then I think Pablo Neruda really can't be beat. But I also love, like, there's this narrative lyric style of poetry by Larry Levis, and I really love his work. I love his he studied under a different poet by the name of Philip Levine, who is, remains one of my favorite all-time poets. Like, it's his poetry, Philip Levine's poetry, that really is one of the major influences on my own writing. And Levine grew up in the Great Depression and worked in the automobile factories in Detroit, and then put himself through night school to study English literature. And so I really admire like his fixation on physical labor and the beauty that can be found in these unexpectedly, like, what seems at first ordinary has something extraordinary to it. And that's kind of an ongoing theme, but also sort of the respect and the importance of work, So I think that Levine's work is really important to me. I love the writing of Brigitte Pegeen Kelly, who's like a Southern Gothic writer. She only did 2 books of poetry in her entire, she only published 2 poetry books her entire life. And there are a lot of these other poets have published like 17 or 20 books. But those 2 books of poetry are phenomenal. Like, every single poem is amazing. And so, like, she kind of reminds me, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And if you can nail it, right, you just really get really solid poems. That's what people remember you for. Being moved, being inspired, being, carried somewhere unexpected by the writing. Yeah, there's poetry that I think is intellectually interesting, or there's some sort of strategy or some sort of idea behind it that seems interesting from a critical point of view, but I don't necessarily see them always as being like the poems that I judge a good poem as a poem that I will return to, that I have fallen in love with in some way. And I can't really, there's the moment, there's the world before I met that poem, and there's the world afterwards. And if I keep going back to it, if I keep thinking about this poem, then, there's something really powerful happening there that is worth returning to. And that, I think, makes it a good poem. Let's see here. I think what good literature does is create a space for empathy. It's sort of this invitation to step into someone else's experience, someone else's emotion. Really great poetry is almost like a magic spell, or like code, in the sense that out of pure language, it creates an experience that is something greater than what's just the text on the page. Yeah, I'd say I love this game, right? And there's something really incredible about almost accidental. Well, I won't say almost accidental, but there's something serendipitous about. They did not design the game initially to be an open sandbox. That was just kind of something to placate the, early access people, to give them something to do. But what emerged out of that was sort of the realization that people love. You can have like a survival game in which there is no win condition. In fact, in the absence of a traditional win condition, players will make up their own win conditions. Right? It will never escape from the island. So what is a victory in the game? How do you know that you've done well? And I feel like it's the fact that there are moments that you go back to and say like, wow, I can't believe I got totally turned around in that blizzard and I couldn't hold a torch. And it was getting darker and darker and I thought I was a goner. And then I like saw like the edge of like this rock and it looked like a rock that I thought I recognized that's close to like the prepper's cache bunker or something like that. And so I just stumbled in the direction I thought it was. And it turned out I was wrong, but there was a shelter there anyway, so it worked out, like stuff like that. Thanks for the sub. Yeah. Thanks, one substance. Yeah. When did you make the mistake? I don't know. To me, actually, usually a win for me is anytime. There was an essay I read about this a number of years ago about someone's experience in the long dark and its relationship to mental health and surviving, like learning to deal with their depression and working their way out of their depression. And one of the points they made was like the game teaches us to find, to take joy in small victories. Oh yeah, let me give you like a few suggestions then. So I had mentioned sort of Philip Levine as sort of a working class poet. He's working class, but at the same time he's also a scholar of Keats. So but he grew up like Great Depression. So Philip Levine and the Southern Gothic one, Brigitte Pagine Kelly. Then I also mentioned Larry Levis, who also does write about work, but he also writes about like, it's hard to explain, and I think I might have to read something by Levis tonight to give you a sense of like why I really love the guy. I know I read something from him last week, but that's okay. So Larry Levis, What Work is like one of the most famous ones, and maybe we'll get a little bit of a show here tonight, and I'll read a few poems that I really love. Since we have some new people, and you'll get to see like the other side of what I do. I trained to be a professor of creative writing. I have a PhD in literature and creative writing and an MFA in creative writing as well. But the job market kind of collapsed for academic positions when I finished. And then it also was poorly timed because I was in the US as a Canadian at the end of 2015. And suddenly it was not a friendly place for people that required immigration paperwork. So, it was a tough time to find full-time university professorships back then. So now I'm a librarian, academic librarian. So, okay, so why don't we do that? Let me might as well get ourselves set up for our end of stream. So let's do that first, and then we'll kind of do some readings. 44 days. We are at 44 days. We are at 263. 44. I've already updated that to 44. Okay, so that's good. So we'll just we'll wait an hour here. Okay, so let's read some poetry then. Okay, so I'll introduce you to a few different people here. Okay, so I had mentioned Philip Levine, and I'll read something not too long. He does have some longer poems, but okay, so let's see. Oh, I know which one I should read. I should read Detroit Greshot poem. That's like a real great one. That's what I should read. Oops. So in this collection. There it is, 76. Okay. Actually, maybe not that one. Maybe we'll do... Okay, let's do Look. That's a different one. Look, the low-built houses of the poor were all around him, and it was dawn now, and he was more awake than not. So it is a young man begins his life. Someone, probably his brother, has quietly closed the front door, and he feels a sudden gust of cold air and opens his eyes. Through the uncurtained window, the gray factory sulks in gray light. There, where his mother must be finishing the night, her arms crossed and immersed in the deep, milky wash basin, those long and slender arms that seemed to him as hard and drawn as a man's. And now she would be smiling, with one eye closed and blurred by the first cigarette in hours. He sits up and lights his first two, and draws the smoke in as deeply as he can, and feels his long nakedness stretched out before him, filling the bed now grown too small for him. They will pass, mother and son, on the street, and he will hold her straight, taut body for a moment and smell the grease in her hair and touch her lips with his, and today he will not wonder why the tears start and stall in his eyes, in her eyes and in his. Today, for the first time in his life, he will let his hands stray across her padded back and shoulders, feeling them give and then hold, and he will not say one word, not mother or Ruth or goodbye. If you were awake in the poor light of this November, have a look down at the street that leads the way you too will have soon to take. Do you see them there, stopped in each other's arms? These two who love each other. Go ahead and look. You wanted to live as much as they did. You asked the day to start. and the day started, but not because you asked. Forward or back, they've got no place to go. No one's blaming you. So, anyways, Levine just okay, so that's Levine. I'll read you like something from Larry Levis. I just this is an amazing poem too. In the city of light, the last thing my father did for me was map away. He died and so made death possible. If he could do it, I will also someday be so honored. Once, at night, I walked through the lit streets of New York, from Gramercy Park Hotel up Lexington, and at that hour, alone, I stopped hearing traffic, voices, the racket of spring wind lifting a newspaper high above the lights. The streets wet and shining, no sounds. Once, when I saw my son be born, I thought how loud this world must be to him, how final. That night, out of respect for someone missing, I stopped listening to it. Out of respect for someone missing, I have to say, this isn't the whole story. The fact is, I was still in love. My father died, and I was still in love. I know it's in bad taste to say it quite this way. Tell me, how would you say it? The story goes, wanting to be alone and wanting the easy loneliness of travelers, I said goodbye in an airport and flew west. It happened otherwise, and where I'd held her close to me, my skin felt raw and flayed. Descending, I looked down at light lacquering fields of pale vines and small towns, each with a water tower, then the shadows of wings, then nothing. My only advice is not to go away, or go away. Most of my decisions have been wrong. When I wake, I lift cold water to my face. I close my eyes. A body wishes to be held, and what can you do about that? Because there are faces I might never see again. There are two things I want to remember about light and what it does to us. Her bright green eyes at an airport, how they widened as if in disbelief. And my father, opening the gate, a lit and silent city. There you go. Anyways, his poems are always like strange and yet so beautifully put together. I just really love Levis. And okay, and so we'll read something of mine to wrap up. Let us see. Maybe we'll try our poem chooser. I have like a random poem chooser. Letter 50. Do we want to read something from the letters? Yeah, always happy to talk about poetry. If my schedule opens up more in January, I'm packing and getting ready for a big move. But if before I move, I end up with a little more time in my schedule, I might. You like the letters, okay? I have more letters that got picked up for publication, but unfortunately, they're not going to be published until like later in 2026. So they're not. I can't read them until they're formally published. But I can read. I can read from the ones that are already out there and published. Maybe we'll read like 2 of the letter poems. Okay, there's letter 50. That's the one that we got selected. Yeah, we'll read letter 50. And then maybe we'll read one other one for fun, something else. Letter 50. This is from a series called Letters to the Unknown Wife, which I started but never ended up finishing. And it's basically premises like the speaker is trying to write to... It's almost like the idea of a beloved with never having met that person. And it's so they instead try to imagine them. But it's kind of separated from like the idea of normally when we write like love poetry, we imagine the person in their physical, like their physicality, their body, and those type of details become really central in those poems about desire and about yearning. And I wanted to try something different. I want to, kind of the idea of the person, like for lack of a better term, like the soul, the essence of the person is what you're trying to connect with or to. So anyways, this is letter 50 in that series. Someone, I tell you, will remember us, if only by what remains in these letters, grown gray with dust, sunk into the shadow and depths of boxes, shelves, and drawers. These lines I meant to give you, if I had but a place or a name to lay down beside my words. If longing were enough, the shape of a heart, or what it leaves, the curve of rain over an arm out of a window, the sound of trains in the yard, in the fog, outside the city where the hills rise into darkness. Would I glimpse through the streaked windshield of my car in the last blows of a storm before night opens wide, like a sudden view of white flowers in a dark field. Someone will remember us. The woman filling her glass in the river, the man watching the horse drown in the waves. Okay, so that was letter 50. And then I think maybe I'll read something that's that's kind of like that. So that one that's from, and I honestly still have not figured out if it's going into the third book or if it's going into a separate small project, or like, I don't know. So it's like, I don't know what to do with that series, but I feel like, but I feel like I'll read maybe one other poem. Do we want something from the Babbage's Dream stuff, or do we want something from The Lost Country? The Lost Country site, I think maybe is what we'll read from. This is... Where's that? There it is. The Lost Country site, this one is my first book of poetry, and it won, we just talked about Philip Levine, it won the Philip Levine Prize for Poetry, and that's how it got published. And so, so I have like this connection because I feel like this was one of my heroes, and then got selected for a prize named after him. He was not judging that year, it was one of his students, but it was still someone who saw like the connection here. Let's do this one. I haven't read this one for a while. Okay, this is called Traveling Through the Prairies, I Think of My Father's Voice. And this was written after my father's death. My father passed away back in 2007 from ALS, from Lou Gehrig's disease. So after like an 7-8 month battle, his body basically just shut down. And so if you're unfamiliar with the disease, it's a neurological disease that basically it leaves the brain perfectly intact and functioning, but the rest of the body begins to shut down. The signals that are sent to the rest of the body get corrupted and confused, and so the rest of the organs just start shutting down. So I would not wish this on anyone. It's a horrible experience. But I was grateful at least that I was able to spend my time with him. So this poem is called Traveling Through the Prairies, I Think of My Father's Voice, and it's about a trip that my mother and I took after that summer afterwards, and returning to Saskatchewan. How we must have seemed like twins over the phone, my father speaking with my voice, I speaking with his, some strange accident of genetics or the unchecked influence of mockingbirds and mimeographs. I have heard two trains sound almost alike till they passed, like the one last night bending westward, the other slowing to a halt, the earth shuddering in the dark between, while the stars held their place overhead, 1,000 points of tin and fire. Had it been day, I might have seen to the far faded edge of nowhere, or whatever town lies wakeless there. Here the wind sounds the same, blown from any direction, full of dust, pollen, the deep toll of church bells rung for mass, weddings, deaths. Coming through on the straight road, the land seems especially bare this year, although the fields are still green with new stalks of wheat, rye, canola. Someone has been taking down the grain elevators, one by one, striking their weathered wooden frames from the skyline, leaving only small metal bins. The way the disease took him by degrees, the body jettisoning what it could, his arms and legs, his grin, his laugh, his voice. In the end, only his eyes, their steel doors opening and closing while the storm rattled within, and his breath, the body's voice, repeating the only name it knew, sigh after sigh, a lullaby sung by a restless child on a heaving deck, a hush we only hear in the quiet dark, long after the boat has gone and the waves have ceased. So my father and I had identical voices, like people who had known us for 20 years could not tell us apart on the voice, and so on the phone. And so frequently people would, he would pick up the phone and they would ask for his mother, and he'd say, well, that's going to be a really long distance call, because she had passed away many years earlier. And then if I picked up the phone, they would always ask to speak to my wife, and I would say, I'm single, and so I would say, if you happen to find out where she is, let me know, because I haven't heard from her. I think like there's this moment after my father's passing where I realized that I was now the only person in the world with this voice. And that was kind of this really powerful and sobering moment for me, and it's something that kind of feeds into a number of different poems in that book and later books as well. The Lost Country of Sight, here, let me throw in the links for read up about this. So The Lost Country of Sight, which was my first book, was published in 2008. And I started it before my father got sick. And there are other poems that are elegies, poems about death and grieving, about loss, that had to do with other people that, friends and family members who had passed away. And so I think there were already poems that were in that direction. And my father had told me many years earlier, when I had left for university the first time, and he had pulled me aside and said, I am not a healthy person. I have a number of things in my, I have a number of health conditions that will all mean that I will not live a long life. And so I want you to prepare yourself for the fact that I'm not going to necessarily be around, when you're later in life. Which is a lot to kind of unload onto an 18-year-old before he goes off to school. But so that kind of stuck around in the back of my mind, that the sense of my father's mortality. And so I think unconsciously it fed into many of the things I wrote very early on. Most of those poems are not particularly great, but it fed into like who I am as a writer. So he told me that when I was 18, and he passed away when I was 33. So 15 years, you know. And ALS was not something that was on the radar at the time. You know, he thought it would be diabetes or Addison's disease or, you know, high blood pressure. One of those things would probably get him first. But those weren't the things that got him. So, yeah, so I think it's interesting how like just a passing comment can end up taking on like such a life in your mind. Yeah, he the diabetes, he was overweight, he was diabetic, he had Addison's disease, which is when your adrenaline gland shuts down and you can only function by taking cortisol. You have to take a steroid every day to keep your body moving. He used to say it's his get up and go, got up and went. And if you don't have, you know, that steroid supplement, then you actually quickly slide into a coma, you know. So unless you're incredibly stubborn, which he was. And so he persisted for about 2.5 weeks before he went to the family doctor, and the family doctor looked at him and said, like, I think I know what's going on here and you need to see a specialist right away. Yeah, so he was kind of stubborn that way. But yeah, so those were a number of like flags that, and then the high blood pressure, you know. Yeah. But it's interesting as a writer, like someone says something in passing, or I misread something, and it will just stick with me. And then sometimes it'll take years before it makes it into the poem. You know, or sometimes it like spawns multiple poems and it never actually stays in the poem. Like I was when I was living in Los Angeles, I went to it was like a summer party in someone's backyard, and there were all these writers there, and I was just walking by a group of writers, and I heard one person say to the other person, "The dead do nothing for me." And there's a moment where I didn't clue in that they were talking about the Grateful Dead, and I just thought, like, there are these two poets talking about how dead people just aren't inspiring poetry for them. It's like, and then I was like, oh no, it's a music conversation. They're talking about the Grateful Dead. So anyways, the dead do nothing for me was a line that I used to start a number of different poems. And in the end, I ended up cutting those cutting the line. So it was funny. It was just a passing conversation, but it was just, it really kind of stuck in there. And sometimes you just read something in a news article and you can't shake it. You just think it's really, like, either the situation's really interesting. There's a poem in my first book that's about, you know, it was a man by the name of Sergio Moreno who survived this absolutely like catastrophic earthquake in El Salvador. And survived multiple days underground. And when they pulled him out and took him to the hospital, he died like 24 hours after hearing that the rest of his family had not survived. So it was like he could survive this natural calamity, but he could not survive grief. And, you know, so I ended up writing about that. What was it? 31 hours. He survived 31 hours underground, you know. And, you know, so I think like as a writer, you're always looking for things that kind of make you do a double take or like make you pause because they're really fascinating. Yeah, yeah, Laszlo. I mean, I am beating the odds right now, given my family history, and given the fact that I'm still overweight, even though I've been trying to get that down. I have managed to beat the odds on not getting diabetes and beaten the odds on not having, I have not had a stroke, and I've not had, a number of other things that are like I'm 51 now, right? So I'm at an age bracket where I just have to deal with, the body changing. And part of it is like I prefer to cook things on my own. So I cook my own meals mostly, and then I also and usually from scratch. And then I also, have been, the last year or so, I've made it a really concerted effort to budget time to go for walks and to get my steps in and to just be generally more physically active, because so much of the work I do is, I work remotely, I work at my desk. If I don't get myself up and moving, it's so much harder to stay healthy. Yeah. So, Substance, you had a question? Let's field a couple questions before we go. Okay, take care, Laszlo. With time, I'll do better than that. I'll read one of my favorite poems by Tennyson. So Tennyson is from the 19th century, but this poem is so on point for capturing this feeling of passing time, and and sort of old age as well. You've probably heard excerpts from it it shows up in other places, but I do think this is like a really phenomenal poem. Let's see, poems. Is it in here? No, maybe I just have to Google it. Okay, pull it up this way. So it's Ulysses. Okay. I love this poem. I love kind of acting it out too, so you'll bear with me. Ulysses. Oh, maybe I'll just pull this over so I can do it. Okay, we'll do it this way. Ulysses. It little profits that an idle king by this still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and dole unequal laws unto a savage race, that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. All times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that love me and alone, on shore, and when through scudding drifts the rainy Hyades vex the dim sea. I am become a name, for always roaming with a hungry heart. Much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honored of them all, and drunk delight of battle with my peers, far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. I am a part of all that I have met. Yet all experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. Life piled on life were all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence something more, a bringer of new things, and vile it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself, and this gray spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle. Well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labor by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duties. Decent not to fail in offices of tenderness, and pay meet adoration to my household gods. When I am gone, to meet adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. There lies the port, the vessel puffs her sail, there gloom the dark broad seas, my mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine and opposed. Free hearts, free foreheads, you and I are old. Old age hath yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all. But something ere the end, some work of noble note, may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks. The long day wanes. The slow moon climbs. The deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends. 'Tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order smite the sounding furrows, for my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Anyways. That one's called Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So if you're familiar with the Odyssey and the Iliad, then that's basically that's the Ulysses from there. And that ending basically is like, so basically what is the situation? You're looking at Odysseus or Ulysses, depending on your Greek or your Latin version of it. But you're looking at Ulysses at the end of his life. And he has now become a great and powerful king, but stuck. Absolutely stuck in the throne room, dealing with all the boring matters of a domestic kingdom. And in his heart still beats this desire to be out there as an adventurer, as a hero. And he looks at his son and he realizes his son is perfectly groomed to take over the kingdom, which really needs a king more like his son, one who's peaceful, not him who's a warrior that really wants to just keep going and going, who only was alive on battlefields and in the wild. But sitting here in the throne room, he's just dying. And so, like, you know, what is his great desire? His desire is really just to throw everything out, get onto his ship with his buddies from old, who are all now old dudes, but hey, they want to go on one last adventure. They want to go out guns blazing into the sunset. And so that's kind of it's that's the 19th century, the Victorian take on what we would now like see. I don't know. It's like we've got enough movies that kind of fill that bill today, but but it's basically a bit of a midlife crisis. My midlife crisis was really realizing that I've run out of time to not refer to myself as middle-aged. Because, I mean, at this point, I would have to assume that I'm going to live over 100 years. So it's like, I don't feel like middle age really describes the life category I'm in. So I just refuse it. So it's like, yeah, it was just, but let's do it anyways. Yeah, I mean, come back on another stream and and ask for more poems, and I'll dig up some more poems that I'd recommend. But that was the first one that came to mind, was that ending. Yeah, and like I said, this week is going to be a little bit crazy because I'm actually going to Toronto I'll be gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Because I'm going for a second round interview for a position at a university library out there. And so, so I'll be like away from my gaming rig. I won't be able to stream, and I need to get that job. So it's like, hopefully I get that job. Prodigal Son theme. I have a sad one about that, but yeah, I could read that sometime. Fool becoming wise. I'll think about that. There's some other ones that probably fit that bill. There's like an absolutely amazing poem called Song by, here's your homework, look up Song by Brigitte Pagine Kelly. Pagine Kelly. This is such a strange, dark, beautiful, weird poem that the ending is absolutely killer on. You're like, where in the world did this come from? Yeah. Was the Odyssey written in Cohen? I have to admit defeat because I really didn't spend time studying the classics to that degree. Yeah. But ancient Greek, yes. Well, yeah. So basically, anytime you're looking at these epics, what you're going to have is existing multiple copies, some of which were preserved in Greek, some were preserved in Latin, like based on a translation from the Greek. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's Cohen. If it's New Testament, the New Testament's far too recent compared to Homer. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, let's figure out who we're going to raid. We went from ending early to ending late, but it's okay. Okay. The best reasons why are poetry. No, this is what you get. This is totally on brand, is for us to wait until you get Roller or someone else requesting me to read from my dissertation. I wrote a dissertation on 19th century artificial intelligence, or basically how the machine becomes a person in the Victorian imagination. And so it's about Frankenstein, it's about Charles Babbage, it's about the automaton Turk, and there's like some other stuff that it's about like 19th century speculative fiction, robots, stuff like that. Sherlock Holmes as well. So yeah, people put requests in for me to read excerpts from there, and that can get into a long conversation. And I've been doing a lot of thinking. Part of my undergraduate work when I was doing computer science was also in sort of foundational artificial intelligence and ethics. Studied ethics and computer science as well as like algorithm optimization. And for me, there's like a perspective on our contemporary artificial intelligence moment that is informed by my cultural and literary understanding of how people responded to the idea of artificial intelligence in the 19th century, and then also informed by the actual like foundational approaches to computer science that I studied. And so understanding like what actually is behind all the hype, how do these things actually work, and what are their real limitations on these approaches. What do I think about AI reaching AGI? I really don't think it's going to happen. I think it only reaches AGI when we change the definition of what AGI means. That's what I think. Just like people claim that AI, like Gen AI, is going to produce like replace writers and screen writers, and no. Is people fundamentally misunderstand how AI works and how these large language models work. I think what you'll get, so here's the problem with anything that's a large language model driven AI, is that ultimately it is only as strong as what it's been trained on. And its result will always be, what it produces is what's most probable or likely, in terms of, so something that fits the pattern that exists in sort of the model that they're working with. So fits the pattern is predictable. Fits the pattern is what is most common. You do not want literature to be reduced to the lowest common denominator, where it is just cliche after cliche and predictable, constantly predictable plots, constantly predictable lines. That is where it fails. So what you get is average. What you get is mediocre. What you get is eventually, as it gets better, passable or flat, but ultimately without personality or soul, because it is not intentional. It is simply the production based on probabilities. So it's like people keep on wanting it to be intentional, to have a will of its own. And so I think I think there is no AI, no AGI on the horizon. I think it's just a dream that people want to believe in, but I don't think it's anywhere close to happening. And here's the other lesson we learn. When you study sort of the history of artificial intelligence in the 19th century, and even earlier, anytime someone tries to make something that replicates what they think they understand about human intelligence, every time you try to build something that is meant to reflect what we think about intelligence, we discover we don't understand intelligence. That's what it is. We think we understand thinking, we build something that tries to mimic it, and then we realize it doesn't work like that. Yeah. No, it's like I think it plateaus, and I think that a lot of applications have been oversold. I think there are definitely applications of large learning models and other AI approaches. Even Gen AI can have its uses, but it's not like a panacea. It's not going to solve everything. Yeah. So I just don't see it. I think it's a pipe dream. So I think it's going to be part of my presentation that I make for work too, is we should just have a just chatting day. I mean, I've thought about doing them. I just didn't know who would be excited to actually join in. Like I can imagine me saying, "Hey, we're just going to have a chat session," and then and then it's just me sitting alone talking to myself. Yeah. So I've also thought about like bringing back something more of a podcast format where I have like a guest, and then there's at least two of us talking, and then chat can be in there as well. No worries, no worries. Okay. Let's figure out who we can raid. Let's see who is up. I don't recognize most of these people. Wow. Okay, Thorgrim's doing. Oh, that's Norwegian. FPS Survivor. Let's see. I think someone's playing through the story mode. I like to support like survival players. Kiki. Let's see, who else could we join? Road to 500. Maybe we'll support. Well, I don't know if they're just in the middle of an ad run. Okay. Wow, it's just kind of hard to find people. Right. Misery Day 460. Who in the world is doing that? That's hardcore. Double cross out. Okay. I kind of want to check out this. Okay. So let's raid Double Crossout. I don't know anything about Double Crossout, but the stream title claims that it's going to be like, a misery run and a really long one, which would be kind of cool to see. And even if it's not, it'll be fun to support someone. So let's bring our raid over there. Thank you all for hanging out. I'll be back again. Yeah, feel free to like, subscribe if you really want to. Come back and we will talk more poetry and play more TLD. And feel free to ask me other questions. Pick my brain about weird stuff. I like read everything, so yeah. I have some poems I've written before TLD came out that are so TLD they actually mention the long dark. Like they actually say the phrase long dark. So it's like, it's very trippy. So poems beat the game in existence. Anyways, let's head over on the raid. Thank you all for hanging out.